Malaya, what are some assumptions about Native Americans that you experienced?
Well, of course, the per cap thing, even recently, but I think a toxic assumption is when learning about Native American culture, we rarely even learn about it in history classes, and that when we do, they just assume it's all perfect and golden and just, oh, Thanksgiving, it was a nice trade, but that has a big effect and plays into the ignorance, like you guys have, all three of you have demonstrated.
Some or assumptions I've heard from people is that usually when they think of Native youth, they think of fighters or drug abusers
Mhm.
just because the way they live, and overall just bad kids, which is not true most of the time.
Right. Yeah.
One of them, to continue, guys, like off you guys, is that we all receive per cap and we all get to go to college for free. And another one is that we're all just uneducated savages who like to drink beer and do drugs and just live a bad life.
Is there any type of racism or experiences that you've had that have negatively affected you throughout your school?
For myself, I was targeted actually in elementary school by a group of boys who tried to cut my hair in the bathroom. And luckily, one of like the campus securities was there to stop it. And also, I was always being like singled out by teachers to explain things like certain things from other tribes, and like they would always get mad when I responded that I didn't know, because I only knew Kumeyaay ways, like they'd ask me, oh, like about other tribes, about the Lakotas and about the Navajos, or the Hopi, and I'd always have to say I have no idea what they're talking about.
Well, stereotypes again, like because I play different types of sports, so I'm surrounded by predominantly non-natives for certain sports. So we have like a bunch of drills that are named after Indians, like Indian dribble, Indian run, stuff like that. And even like some of my closest friends and like people just growing up always called me a bunch of racial slurs. And then like recently, I think a month ago, we were on the topic of colonization in history class, and our teacher asked us. This has stuck with me, and he asked us if the justification of Christopher Columbus killing all the natives, not all of them, but millions of them, is justified. And one of the kids in my class said it's justified because if natives didn't die, then we wouldn't have iPhones today. So that's kind of stuck with me a lot.
For me, there has been a couple times at school with my peers or friends where they make me feel outcasted from my culture because they fit me into the stereotype that all Native Americans have the red skin color. So they would always tell me that I look too pale or too white to fit into my culture or be a part of it because I don't fit into the red skin stereotype of a Native American.
I think, like you were saying, the intertribal discrimination, it's a really big problem. It's a really big issue that's not talked about enough. I mean, I've seen people get in fights just from saying you were from one reservation because they don't like each other.
Right.
And why? We're all the same, it doesn't matter. Or as well as how much Native are you? Well, are you enrolled? That's also another discrimination that's like intertribal. If you're not enrolled, well, oh, you're not really tribal kind of thing, in which I've experienced a lot. Another thing is just like being singled out in school. I mean, pretty much like I remember the kids from the reservation were literally put in different room because they didn't want us interacting with the other children because they thought that we would start fights and arguments.
Who or what has been most helpful for you in becoming an empowered young person?
For me, I would have to say I'm going to use the term mentors as like a broad term because there's many people who have helped me like get to where I'm at or where I am,
Mhm.
and that ranges from like my parents to just my family to teachers like my language teacher. They all just like a couple of them pushed me to do academic work. Some of them pushed me to just be a better version of myself, and then some of them pushed me to go beyond my limits to like just make myself a better person.
Who or what has been most helpful to me has been my mom, for one. She always just has pushed me to do my best. I'll actually only be the second person to graduate in my family, my first on my father's side. So I'm really excited about that. Another person would be my teachers, Mari Mann and Serena from my academy. They just go above and beyond any teacher should even have to or even think about. They go the extra mile for their students, especially me. I wouldn't be graduating without them. As well as Ms. Deborah Cuero, who is the reservation educational director for Campo Indian Reservation. And she opened up the school so that there was access on the reservation, in which we didn't have for a long time. So we just got this school 2 years ago, and it's the first access that we've had on the reservation. So I am really grateful for that, as well as other students who are so grateful for her.
What do you expect of the adults around your school?
One, they could have a better counseling and guidance system, because it does feel, though, as a Native American student, like you said, they don't shed light and awareness towards us that much. So they always make us feel like we're outcasted when we need help with school or academic. And I would think that the school district, especially at the high school, should have an open mind and awareness that because of our culture, there are certain things that we do that we have to miss school for, like ceremonies and special events that we have culture that they overlook, and it feels like they need more empathy towards us.
Yes, empathy. I think that's the key word of this year. I hear it everywhere.
I would like for the adults and staff to be more open-minded and involved to help voice our concerns about anything that goes on throughout the school. And also, I'd like for the staff and teachers to be more understanding for when kids have to miss school due to ceremonies, or like if they're going to go to powwows, or whatever it may be. That they're always not so hard for when they have to miss school and then they come back.
Personally, I would love the adults to ask more questions like about the culture, and just keep a quote in mind: "No dumb question is a dumb question as long as you're trying to learn." As well as just be there for their students and have the ability to motivate. Like, you can't just give up on us because we won't do it. Sometimes it takes a little bit more effort, but once they get the ball rolling, it will just keep on rolling and rolling.
Are there any situations that have been exacerbated due to the pandemic that you've noticed?
Well, I'm a advocate for like mental health awareness, and I've noticed a huge decrease of stable mental health, especially like in Native communities, and drug use. And I think like people kind of just look at the drugs and stereotype again, like, oh well, they've been there, like the drugs have always been in the Native communities, they just like to smoke weed and get high. But I think the core issue that people need to start looking at is we're all on lockdown, and some kids have abusive homes or a sick grandmother they have to take care of, and that takes a toll. So kind of like a reach out, I guess. I don't know, but kind of form an understanding of what each kid has to go home to and what each kid is stuck at home with.
For me, two big key things I want to bring awareness to during this pandemic is one, like you said, because we live on reservations in certain parts of our reservation, it is hard to get internet access and resources for the school to get things done. So I think they could reach out too for that to help us. And the second one is that domestic violence rates have gone up, especially in the Indigenous community since this pandemic. So I think that's something to shed light on and awareness that during this pandemic, the rates have gone up extremely higher than what they were. So those are just two things that I want to bring awareness to today.